So here we are. We are live now. We'll go ahead and start talking like we know what we're doing, with makeup on and all that stuff. Good morning, Brenda and Tina. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, I think. Okay, let me check this. Testing. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear me. Okay, I'm online too. Just checking. Good morning, Tina. Good morning, Brenda. Miss Diana is here. Good morning from Canada. Francisco was here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but he was in early this morning or last night or something. Brenda is watching humpback whales. And there's Mike Cabral, Diana's lovely husband.
All the way from Canada.
All the way from Canada. I don't know.
Well, hopefully it's not too buggy there. It sure is here right now.
I bet they get their fair share of bugs in season.
We've had good morning, Miss Brenda. We had some serious mosquito hatching going on here in the last couple of weeks. So
Brenda would not like it there.
They will pack you up and carry you off. It's like Alaska bad.
Brenda she bought some clothing so she can work outside, because she just goes out, even for just a little bit, and she just can get eat up, at least if it's the right time of day or not. And Diana said she's not sure how lovely Mike is. Well, you said it, not me.
And Mike says they got a lot of mosquitoes. I went and set 4 crawfish traps yesterday afternoon, and I'm still itching. They ate me.
Wow, they got you. If they're doing that to you, then they must be bad, because they don't usually bother you.
No, and they descended on me. I haven't seen mosquitoes like this in a long time, so it's a bad year for us.
Mike, what does it mean when you say it's going to be hot there? I don't know how far north you are, actually, but still, you're in Canada, so you're further north than we are. Oh, I was telling you about Brenda's mosquito clothes. And she wore them yesterday. She's telling in the chat. She wore them yesterday because she went out and did the bird feeders. And we finally had a couple hummingbirds out back now. They're either coming back through or something. And so we're trying to keep them ready. They still bit her fingers. Oh, my God. I've never had them bite my fingers. Maybe the back of my hand, but
whatever anyway, they can get to.
She bought those. Well, yeah, she bought those mosquito clothes, and they do seem to work here. I just wonder if they'd work in a situation like you're in.
Well, they're pretty bad this year, so
I'm wondering if the clothes come pre-treated with Permanone or something. No, that's ticks.
Yeah, that's ticks.
Of course, they do kind of keep skeeters off too, but low 90s. Wow. What about humidity, Diana?
Low 90s. Good gosh.
That's too hot for Canada.
That's too hot for anywhere.
Well, welcome back to Tennessee. It's going to be 30. Now, that you said you got 30F. Do you mean 30C? No, that's too hot. That'd be... Well, no, that might be close. I used to know some. I used to be able to convert that better. I know 20 degrees is like 68 Fahrenheit.
You gotta multiply it times 5 ninths or 9/5 or something.
Yeah, or divide it by something else because you're going the other way. I can't. I tell you how I do it. I look at my phone conversion chart.
Yeah.
I got a good conversion chart on my phone, and that's how I convert metric stuff to American stuff. And sometimes I wish we had just gone on the damn metric system.
Yeah, but I still can't think in those terms. I
can't.
I like the thought of it, and I had to, and like you, it had to use it quite a little bit,
Right.
but I don't think in that system at all.
Tina says she asked Alexa. I guess that works too. I didn't think about that. I don't use Alexa, so 30C is 86F. Okay, well, I was close then. Carol Karki. She's on the road again. I got a piece of something in my... Oh, I see it now. I'm going to cut it off. Bear with me here while I groom. I got something stuck in my finger, and I got to get it out, or a piece of hangnail or something.
You're digging.
I don't want to pull it out. If I do, it'll get infected. I don't know if that happens to anybody else, but I get these almost like blisters on my finger sometimes if I do. I've done that when I was younger, and I finally figured out if I cut them off, they don't get that way. Sure, somebody probably tried to tell me that when I was young, and I just didn't understand. Because, you know everything when you're young. Mike says it's going to be really hot today. Not sure what we're going to do. Had plans on painting around the house, but too hot to paint.
It's always...
Especially if you're not used to it, Mike. And I mean, you guys may have 90-degree weather sometimes now, but I don't think it used to be a normal thing.
It's too hot to paint even when it's 50.
Well, you got a point there. Brenda likes to paint. I never could stand painting. It was just
My wife loves to paint. She paints inside and outside. She loves to do it.
Her and Brenda need to get together then.
I'd rather take a good old-fashioned beating
Me too.
as paint one single board. But
I just never could get the hang of it.
I learned about that Tom Sawyer thing early on, right?
Maybe too early.
It's like that is not a good way to make a living.
Good morning, Miss Rhonda. How's Atlanta? Speaking of hot, how's Atlanta, Georgia, or the surrounding areas? Probably. Oh, are you guys getting a ton of rain, Rhonda? Man, Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky's getting washed away, buddy. Yeah, it's bad.
Dad said they were getting pounded. That
Well, they probably are too. He's in
no,
a good.
no, not at Mom and Dad's, but that Maysville and Lexington.
Oh yeah,
Kentucky was getting hammered.
No, they've had 19 deaths already in that one area.
That's what I'd heard. Do you know what town that was?
I heard this morning, but I won't be able to remember it now because I've been trying to figure that out.
It's probably that stuff southeast of Lexington that always seems.
It is southeast, maybe even just east, but east southeast of Lexington. Yes,
and they've been just in the eye of the storm for the last year. They tornadoes and floods and awful. It's those poor folks.
Don't you love that humidity mixed in with that, Rhonda? Because that good humidity can make that 77 temperature, even though it should be cool, it can make it semi-miserable. Because humidity is good about that. 86 is not hot. You should come down here, Rhonda said. Yeah, that's true. You want hot? Move south. You don't even have to move far south this year. Mike says, my window of opportunity of paint is so small because the winters are too cold to paint, and it's not. Oh, I must have hit the wrong button along and reset my alarm. Painting is not a good excuse anymore. Don't you hate that? That's another bad thing about climate change, Mike. It opens up those windows that you don't really want open, like yard mowing and house painting and those kind of things. They make warm clothes. I hate cold temps with humidity, all hot and all that clamminess. Yes, that's why I just love humidity. It's just so clammy. And morning, Dave. We were just talking about Georgia. Adventures by Dave is in the house. Yeah, yeah, hey, yo, yo. I can't remember how they used to do that. I think that was, who was that used to do that on a show? It was a late night show. I just always, Diana and Mike, I always wanted to move up your way because I thought it'd be cooler. I mean, even if it got cold, I know it got bad cold, but I didn't think it got that hot in the summer. That's what I wanted. Because down here it gets so blasted hot you can't hardly stand to do anything. At least I can't. For somebody that was born in the South, or mid-South, whatever you want to call Tennessee, I sure don't deal with the heat very well. I can't remember how we dealt with it when I was younger. I don't know if it was as bad then or not, but I guess
we're always in the creek.
Well, that's true. When I could be, I was. That's fine.
Or the river.
Yeah, we did dam the creek up a lot when I was over at my cousin's. We had a good creek over there we could dam up. Oh, okay. I know we got some yesterday and it was localized. Wasn't sure. Oh, last night storms. We got storms overnight? We got a lot of rain overnight. Okay, Dan or Dave. Well, I hope you guys don't have flooding down your way. North Cold Pole and Florida hot. We see in the wintertime those big Arctic, what do they call them, and all that, or sometimes they say Canadian. I can't remember how they describe that, but they describe the weather when we get a big front moving down from up your way, and when it's bringing
cold. Vortex.
It sprinkles Atlanta floods, so really. And Diana said a polar vortex too.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, but don't they have a term for just that the blast, like it's a polar train or something coming down this way? I don't know. Maybe that's just something silly they say around here. My friend moved from here to NOLA. She's used to ignoring the flood warnings here, and it's a huge culture change for her. Oh, I bet it is. New Orleans is I'm not sure how many weeks a year New Orleans is not underwater, and it seems like. And man, when it floods there, it really floods. I'm not sure I'd have a house there that wasn't on stilts.
And even then, the whole darn town's under sea level.
Yeah, it is. That's why they got to have all those giant pumps to try to keep it dry.
What do they call those houses? Cheeky houses or whatever that are up on stilts.
Yeah,
that's what I'd be living like.
Rhonda said their friend's house is on pilings. I'd have to have it. I'd have to live on something like that. Even then, it'd be so dang hot. I mean, New Orleans that might be the true capital of humidity. Her house is a post-Katrina rebuild. I wonder, they put them on pilings to avoid the floods. I wonder how they reinforce a house on piling for the wind, for hurricane winds. That'd be long as it could do both, I'd be all about that. Oh, Tina says in New York, upper New York, where she's at, they're going to have rainy and 77 degrees high. A little chilly for her, too hot for her hubby. Well, now, if it's actually chilly, I don't know what I don't know what humidity's like up there right now. But if it's somewhat dry, then that 77 and rain would probably be cold, especially if you're out in it.
55 to 60 with about 25% humidity is perfect. Anything above or below that is wrong.
Oh, my goodness. I was always happy.
My range of comfort has narrowed dramatically.
I knew guys that didn't ride their motorcycles, but it's below 40. But when it got below 70, if it was in the 70s, I was usually good. But if it got below 70, that's when I like to ride most. Mike says a couple years ago, Diane, I had a job offer in Florida Keys and we decided not to move. What a bad mistake. Well, at least the Keys, you do have that sea breeze, but it gets hot there too. But it might not be as bad as living in like the middle of Florida, because good God Almighty, it gets hot there. I don't know how they do pilings there, but in Ohio, they built my city on a swamp and they drill way down to set the pilings. Yeah, they have to. What city was that, Rhonda? You've probably said that before, but I don't remember. The Keys are generally not as hot as you'd think because the air, isn't stagnant like Orlando. Exactly. That's what I was thinking too. That's why I said it wouldn't be as bad there probably. And Tina said, yeah, that's what I was thinking. If it's on poles, it's more in the wind. 75% humidity, Tina says. That's not good, but not terrible. It could be worse. It gets worse here pretty regularly. On pilings, the wind has a better chance to go around under the house. Well, that's a good point. Canton. I've never been to Canton. North of the Football Hall of Fame. Speaking of that, it's almost time for the Little League baseball. Huh?
I said, good morning, John.
Hey, John. I didn't see you pop in. Belden, not Belson, Belden in Canton, North, whatever. Yeah, they did that. There was a time, well, I don't know when that city was created, but, if you think back historically, hey, Dean, good morning. Hello from the Wendy's dining room. Woohoo. What are you having that I might like to have right now?
You got a hearty steak biscuit? I'm willing to do just about anything to get a hearty steak biscuit.
I got to try that again. I got some special containers. Hang on, let me show you. What did he say?
It just sounds like a Looney Tune cartoon.
Oh.
You turned your screen off and it just sounds like you're fighting a chicken in a barn or something.
Look at this. I think this is going to be the perfect sausage biscuit
cinder.
Because look inside.
If they're not frozen, they ain't going to make it.
Well, they're going to be frozen this time. See, it's got a cutout for biscuits.
Oh, look at that. It's got a perfect steak biscuit shape.
It's good. I think it's going to be perfect. I think I can put 2 in each one of these. Freeze them first, of course. I'd even be able to slide a little piece of dry ice right there in that corner. And then, surely I can, because there's a cutout too. So yeah. And then I thought I'd lay a piece of dry ice on top of the box and on the bottom of the box, and you ought to get that, and they ought to be pristine inside.
And nobody knows what we're talking about except Brenda, but we don't have Hardee's out here in the West. We have Carl's Jr., but they don't have country fried steak biscuits, which we used to eat by the pound.
Well, they're pretty tasty. I still have to admit I want sausage, gravy, and biscuits. Well, I like that too, but Mark can get that out there. He can't get.
I can get that part, but not country fried steak biscuits.
Hey, Space Mountain Dave, good to see you, sir. Hardee's has the second best bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. Second best. Okay, well, I got to ask who's got first best, Rhonda. We don't have them around here much either. Yeah, well, Hardee's isn't as common as they used to be in this part of the world. A few years back, they kind of took a hit. Martin's, I've never heard of Martin's. Hey, Rhonda, before we change the subject, move on to today's topic. There's I won't be able to remember the name of it now, but there's a place in East Atlanta. I think it's actually near some prison in East Atlanta. I only say that because I remember the signs on the street. But anyway, there's a little barbecue place down there, and all they barbecue or smoke and barbecue, I guess, are hams. They don't use anything but ham, and they chop it up and that's what they make all their sandwiches and stuff with. And there's a guy stands there and chops it up, and this is no joke, Mark. He's got a chopping board. It's a couple feet long, which you can't see that far wide, and probably yay thick. And then in the middle, it's just hollowed out down to where he's chopped so long on it. It's down to about an inch in the middle or something. It's pretty interesting, and the barbecue ain't bad. Although I kind of think just ham may not be the perfect barbecue cut of meat, but it is good. But I can't remember. Oh, you can't get biscuits and gravy up there, Diana? Oh, let's take a moment.
That's yeah. We should.
That's sad.
We should say a word or two about that.
Yeah.
That's got to be close to purgatory or somewhere like
it's got to be. We may be owning in on where purgatory really is. Dave says I just made turkey sausage and pancakes outside of my Blackstone flat top. Well, I have two things to say about that. One, that sounds interesting and neat that you can do that. I used to work with a fellow, though, that said you can't make sausage out of turkey. He used to get so pissed off about that when we were on the road or something, he'd eat and it'd be like baked turkey sausage or turkey bacon. He'd say, that stuff's got to come from a pig. So it's not too bad, though, I'll admit. Surf Bum, I have a fenced-in yard, but they had the babies under the shed, and my lab thinks it's a plaything. Whoa, what are we talking? I missed something there. There's something about blue jays, too. I got to catch up with Dave here just a minute. He's talking about some kind of critters under his house.
Oh,
I can't find it.
I see smelled.
Uh-oh.
Hopefully that doesn't mean he's got striped kitties under his.
I don't know of this place. If you find out what the name of it. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I got a book that tells it, Rhonda. I don't know if you know who Alton Brown is on the Food Network and those kinds of things. He rode across country on a motorcycle a couple of times in different areas, and he stopped in, kind of unusual, out of the way places, and that was one of the places he went to. But Let me fly out where you see you since okay, we will fly out to see you since I know you want more company, and I will bring you steak biscuits from Hardy. She's talking to you, Marcus. And she said she knows you want more company. Rhonda says we used to live down here in town, but we moved up to the north side. I forgot where. Okay. Oh, somebody. Oh, that's right. He is local. I forgot about that, Rhonda. He is from that area. That's probably why he knew about that barbecue place then. Okay, folks, let's get down to oh, wait a minute. Carol, if you can speak to the phone, when are you going to be home? Let's see if she answers me before. Brenda says we're going to fly out your place, Mark, or out your way.
I'll come pick you up Salt Lake.
Okay, deal. And she's going to pack steak biscuits and bring them.
If she can bring steak biscuits, I'll come get you. I'll pick you up and won't leave you there down in Utah.
Maybe I'll go buy one of those truckers warming ovens that they drive around truckers use to keep their lunch warm. And
yeah.
Once we land, we'll plug it up in your truck. Time we get probably long before we get back to your place, we'll have warm steak biscuits for you to eat in the truck.
Be able to eat right in the truck.
Just like the old days. I'm at home listening. We have a family situation going on, but we are okay. Well, I hope you are. Well, I just had a few slides I was going to run through, Carol, so you can see them. But you take care of home. You take care of home stuff. That's way more important. If we need somebody to pass judgment, Mark and I'll stand. We'll sit as the judges. See how that turns out. Brenda's already got the planes in her chat. She's ready.
Outstanding.
Okay, let's see here. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna try to do this right the first time. Anybody believe that's gonna happen?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I was too quick there.
Too quick. Okay. I got it ready. Boink. I love these ads. These ball jar ads. Grab your balls. It's cannon season. You didn't laugh at that. I must be losing my touch.
Sorry, I was conversing with my bride about dog feeding.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I just was letting her know who had eaten and who hadn't this morning so far.
Oh, okay.
Since we only have like 6 dogs, so.
Oh, I got you. Oh, okay. I want to know if the subtitles bother anybody. I was messing around with accessibility stuff today. I was thinking about Mike.
That's a little weird.
Well, it's doing my voice for subtitles for somebody who is hearing impaired.
Yeah.
But if it bothers, people that are in here, because right now I don't think there's anybody in here that is, but I got to thinking about Mikey. We have a friend in Florida named Mike Wheeler, and he's blind, so he listens to a lot of things. Now, this won't help him, but that's why I was looking at the site, and I thought, well, let me see what this does, and I might give it a try, and then again, I might not be able to stand to see my own words. You know what I mean?
Well, look, it's drawing my eye to that instead of the screen.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was afraid of too.
It's not getting the words accurate every time either.
Well, I'll tell you what.
If you said Shimani Tatanka Owachi, oh, you turned it off before I could see if they could pick that up.
We'll say it again, and wait a minute. I can turn it back on.
No, you turned it off.
Well, wait a minute. I can do it again. See what it says. It up. You're not ready yet. Hang on. Now.
So it I don't know if it can interpret other languages like Shumani, Tatanka, Owachi. Sort of.
Actually, it has some multiple languages. That's probably not one of them.
Wastiwelo.
What are you wearing? I'm thinking that's probably not what you said.
That is not what I said.
That is not what I said. Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to turn that off. All right, folks, bear with. I was trying to do something and probably shouldn't have done it. But I just wanted to see how it came out. And if I ever have that situation where we have someone that is hearing impaired, I would like to be able to do that.
And actually, it was pretty accurate most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time it looked like it on this end. Watch me not be able.
Tina said it's off.
Well, it's off because I don't have.
Oh, you don't have your screen.
Yeah, it's only on my. It's only on my
slideshow.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. Gotcha.
And I don't. I may not ever be able to turn it off now. It was so easy to do. But I must admit, I did it kind of on accident. Because that screen popped up on me this morning for some reason.
Just had a big thump on the window.
I heard that.
Thump. I don't see anybody laying out here. Must be nice to live in a place where you don't have like birds like flying into the side of your house all the time.
I don't know about that. I'd have to give that some serious thought. Okay, here it is. I just want to see, always use subtitles now. Okay, I think I got rid of it now. Let's see. Okay, let's try this again.
It'll be all right anyway.
Yeah, if I don't get it this time, I'm going to run through the slides anyhow. Come on, computer. Gee, I guess it's trying to tell me it was ready. It was just some user problem here.
Uh-oh. Tina's got birds trying to get into the screen porch.
Oh. If they dive bomb the screen, that'd be bad. Some birds might get through there. Woodpeckers could for sure. Okay. We're going to get canny this morning for a little bit. Mark and I have been talking about, food preservation. And so I just put together these slides. And I think what I'm going to do today is kind of go, I wish Ian was. There's Ian. You got here just in time for the slides, buddy. Picked up unwanted souvenir on trip, going to go back to bed, but wanted to say hi to, not that kind of souvenir.
Oh, no.
You probably don't want to watch this.
He don't want to talk about food then, probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He could care less about canned food. Sorry, Ian. I hope you get feeling better soon, buddy. Hopefully you can't spread it through the computer. So anyway, we're going to talk about canning, and I love this ball jar ad. I saw, probably not ball jars, but I saw this in a lot of different variations. I picked this one because it had the jar.
Where did you get that? I need
fine. There's a whole bunch of them. You can even get T-shirts with this.
I need to get. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, I like that.
I thought it was. You know me, I thought it was kind of funny. I said, let's can some squirrels. So anyhow,
we we couldn't get jars for a long time there.
you know, I heard other people talking about jars were in short supply.
There was it got so bad it even made it to that moonshiners show where they couldn't find literally they couldn't find jars for their shine.
Oh my
They were
God!
putting
No,
shine in
no.
they were putting shine in plastic milk jugs and stuff like that. It was bad for a while there. It was
That's
hard.
the old-fashioned way to do it.
You could not find a jar to save your life for about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months after COVID started.
I heard that. Somebody else was telling me that, or I saw something in the store about it. And
We
I
had
thought,
we
wow.
were lucky we had enough jars to kind of get us through, but it was tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, I mean, we always recycled ours unless somebody broke one or something. But
you couldn't even get lids and rings.
that was my next question. If you couldn't get lids, though, you'd be in real trouble.
Yeah, it was tough for a while, and then they came back out, and we grabbed up as many as we could. And I never turn them down now. It's like if somebody's got them and doesn't want them, I take them. So
I saw some internet while I was researching this. I found some other things that I thought were really interesting. Some different kinds of lids now people are using and ways to put them on that weren't like we ever used. And actually, I'm not entirely sure how that would work on some things. Anyway, I love these old ads. I found a lot of these. I've got 2 or 3 of them in here, but we'll have lots to eat this winter, won't we, Mother? And I think this was a wartime or maybe even a Depression era ad. This one wasn't dated, I don't think. It might be at the bottom, and I couldn't read it. But, you know, during the war, they were really pushing both wars, actually. I found some from World War I and World War II, and I didn't realize that they had pushed for that in World War I. And I have some Canadian information too, Diana and Mike, a little bit about that. So here's God dang it, Tim, stop. Some of the way I put down here, some of the ways you can do this. You can dry it, you can cure it, you can freeze it, there's fermenting, aka kimchi, but there's actually other things too.
Nuck Mom from Vietnam.
Yeah. What is it?
Nuck Mom.
Is it cabbage too, or is it something else?
It's cabbage and fish heads buried in a jar. It's trapping bait. That's what my uncle, who was over there, called it, trapping bait.
Everybody in here probably don't understand that, but I do.
Yeah.
If you've ever run any traps, you'll know. Anyway, another way is you can pickle things, you can sugar things, which is a lot like salting, and you can can it, which is what we're going to end up talking about some. But, you know, some examples of curing is like salt cured, and then country ham is an example of that. But I've seen country ham salted and sugared both, or heard of them. In the end, I think they're still salty because I've never sugared a ham, but apparently when you use curing sugar, it must have salt in it too.
And I've never even heard of that, sugaring.
I have, and I've had it. To me, it seems like it's just about as salty. That may just depend on who does the ham, but they say sugar will pull the moisture out just about as much like salt.
Yeah.
Or it's got salt mixed in it, and therefore it does. I'm not sure. That's the thing. And the whole purpose of that is to draw the moisture out of the meat.
And this is definitely a squirrel, but I mean, you know, you use like people used to use sugar to, like, when you had like a prolapse in a cow.
Yeah.
They like, if they like their uterus was prolapsed, they would pour sugar on it to reduce its size, and then they could, put it back where it belonged.
That's interesting. Now, I never heard that. Squirrel number one, Tina said.
That's a big old squirrel there. That's a great big fox squirrel.
That's an interesting factoid, though, or fact. Not
yeah, just how sugar reacts to tissue. That's anyway.
Interesting. I've seen Dr. Pole push in prolapses, but I've never seen him sugar one down. I was looking up. Go ahead.
Oh, there's veterinarians still using it, still doing that.
Ian may not be feeling good, but he's
still in.
He's still put a whole new man to pour some sugar on it, baby. I think that's how the song went.
He's still in. The comedy relief.
Ball arena, Brenda says. That's funny because I just saw funny videos where guys were playing basketball wearing only t-shirts. I missed something there. There is a ball arena.
Well, Ian was talking about it.
Yeah, it's out. I saw that recently. That might have been in Supercross. I saw somebody having an event in Ball Arena, and I thought, Brenda's giggling.
It's in Colorado.
Yeah, but I thought, wow, I never would have realized that a canning jar company would have been that big that they can do that. And I looked into canning and preserving foods in a similar way, and while it may have happened before this, they think some of the first big breakthroughs actually came in the late 1700s because of Napoleon. Napoleon was looking for a way to feed his troops when they were, it used to be the Pepsi Center. Huh. So who plays there, Ian? Is that the hockey arena? That may be why I saw it. Guess they do a lot of aluminum things. Who, Ball? They may be making cans because you can now actually can use cans to can at home. I didn't know that. I've never seen anybody do that. Tina says, I imagine the sugar is far less painful to the cow than salt. Well, yeah, that's probably true too. That's probably true, Tina. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's pour salt on that wound.
That'd be cruel, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be not good.
So anyway, some fellow figured out a way to put stuff in. They want Napoleon, and they got put up a reward for this. They put like 15,000 francs or whatever the currency was of that day for somebody who could come up with this idea, and they wanted them to put it in cans. I guess they had 10 cans or can make them. Or he wanted something like that would be durable, that he could pack and carry out, and it wouldn't be as perishable. The containers wouldn't be crunched up.
Like a sea rat.
Yeah, like a sea rat. Well, this guy what he came up with at that time was he used glass. I don't know what kind of lids he put up, but he wrapped the glass in some kind of coated canvas, and then he steamed them or heated them up to do this heating part. Hey, Shelley, welcome. And that's how he was trying to protect the glass. Now, that wouldn't be perfect, but it's probably better than nothing. But then it kind of jumped around for a while, and I was reading about when they started using jars and things. Kerr and I remember Kerr stuff. I don't know if it's still out there or not, but Kerr, and I can't think of his first name, he invented the wide mouth jar, which is what we used for just about every. Mom used some small mouth jars, but rarely. She might have put, if she was trying to can some kind of juice or something real thin, she might use those jars. But wide mouth jars were the prevalent kind. And he invented that, but Ball kind of took the pick. Pardon me, but he picked up the ball and ran with it. And now most people know more about ball jars than that. But then again, there's also mason jars, which we didn't talk about. But I've seen a
Which
lot of whiskey in mason.
I always wondered why they called it canning instead of jarring.
Well, I don't know.
Good question. Because it's you. Well, you said there's some people doing actual canning now.
Yeah, I've got a picture here of people, but and places like Ball and Mason, Kerr, they may sell cans now. Anyway, we'll keep moving here. So now I've got some examples of things. Oops. I think, for example, there's some I picked these pictures out because I thought they looked more like home canning. I'm sure there's people out there that can do them that look much more professional, but this is what my mom's shelf would have looked like. Except I don't know what that is in the middle. Looks like snake heads.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
I'm thinking, you know what? I think that's fish heads. I really do. No. We'll move on. So anyway, but my mom did a lot of freezing also, and mostly corn. She used to cut off corn and make just this. And I never thought of it as cream corn, but everybody else, I guess, called it that. She didn't put anything in it but the milk from the corn. Tim, keep your hand off the button.
And, yeah, so I mean, that's just frozen corn.
Yeah, well, Mom did it kind of like that, and it was really good. In fact, we played around with it off and on for years. We got to where we could freeze ears of corn that way, and they turned out pretty decent. Artichoke hearts. That's what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Still looks like it's got eyeballs.
Oh, Shelly says she's drinking sweet tea out of a purple ball jar.
It looks like, actually, that looks like hellbender heads.
Okay, we know too many things that could be, so let's move on. Went the wrong way. Now this I found interesting. First, I'll do on the left slide. That's fermentation in the ground, and apparently that was a common way to do things if you could bury it correctly. And this picture didn't say exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's kimchi in Korea. It could be a fish sauce. They do fish sauce like that too, kind of like you were saying, but some of it's just fish heads and things spiced up, or whatever else they use. But I think this looks like kimchi. I've seen this on a documentary, as my friend Steve says, and these pans just look like that's what I remember seeing. Now, interesting thing, on the right, we have what's called bog butter.
What in the world is
and that? They actually have dug this stuff up in archaeological digs around Nordic villages, aka Vikings and that sort of thing, and maybe some of the Celt cultures once they got over here, they would just like they buried bodies in the bogs or ended up being bogs hundreds or thousands of years later, and they were preserved. Well, this is bog butter, and it was preserved, I'm thinking, in some kind of a skin, which has been all they had. And they said this stuff actually would still not anything I think I'd eat, but they said it was still like butter. I mean, it'd been in there for hundreds and hundreds of years, but it'd been buried in that peat moss where it was completely an aerobic situation or anaerobic situation. Anaerobic. No air, no.
Yeah, kind of like eating a mastodon steak up in Russia or in Siberia.
I've heard of that. That'd be well aged, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty both interesting and kind of disgusting looking, but it's neat that they found it and it was still there. It's a little bit like to me, it's a little bit like the the Pueblo ruins in this country where they found corn and nuts and things like that had been stored in those caves and dried out, and it was still in there.
Yeah.
After, again, thousands of years or whatever.
That's cool.
So here we've got drying stuff. We've got a whole world of peppers there on the
Holy
left.
buckets. Look at that.
What?
That's a lot of peppers.
That's a lot of peppers. I can't really see what kind of peppers they are, but they're not too long. They look almost like jalapenos.
Probably something that just lights you on fire.
Oh, I'd bet that. Didn't they used to do stuff like that out in Messina or out in Cruces when you were out there?
Well, I mean, Hatch is just north of Cruces.
Right.
And that's like the chili capital of America. And they make some of the best chilies on the planet. And there's a lot of chili processing that occurs in that part of the world. And you can get into places where you can't hardly breathe because the smell of roasting chilies or whatever. But yeah.
Okay, Rhonda went out and looked up the definition of canning. It's derived. She says it's derived from canister, which is what they call the various receptacles back in the day. So it could have been a jar, and they still called it canning, I'm thinking, at one time.
Because of the canister.
Canister, yes.
Huh.
I'll touch that button again. And of course, on the right, we have fish, and they're smoking or drying these fish over coals and smoking them. So, smoked fish. I've had some smoked fish that was just. Ian said it making his eyes itch. Well, it'll open your sinuses too. Scorpion, extremely hot. Get the information from Healthy Canada. Oh, okay, thank you, Rhonda. So anyway, there's a way to dry. You can dry that way, and I've known people that would make smokers out of old refrigerators and things. That I saw some guy that was smoking mullet one time, and he had an old refrigerator body with the insulation on it, and he had a fire coals for smoking in the bottom, and then he had some kind of an outlet on top, and he could close that door, man, and it was it was sealed up in that refrigerator. It got pretty good smoke.
Yeah.
And here we got a couple of different. Now these are not so different. I put two different ones in here because they look different, and I've seen both of these. One's a little bit more than the other, and in fact, these on the left, I may have got this, and it may have said they were sugar hams, but I'm not positive. But these on the left, to me, look smoked, but they could just be very, very dry. Spain is famous, or at least parts of Spain are famous for their cured meats and hams, particularly. And they've got some that are just considered over-the-top gourmand kind of hams when you slice them up for charcuterie or ever how you say that.
Well, it's
opening
funny to me, you can take other species and cure them that same way.
Yeah.
And they'll taste like hog ham, we've done like antelope hams that way, or pronghorn hams. And they, if you treat them the same way, they come out tasting very similar.
Let's see. Tina says, "Oh yes, me too." Hey Tim, speaking of opening sinuses, how do you make horseradish? Well, I can look that up in a minute, Tina. I know horseradish will open my nose up. So does wasabi. Real wasabi. Japanese wasabi will open me up big time. So anyway, that's some delicious looking hams and other meats. I thought I'm
hungry, daggone it.
What?
I'm like, you're getting me hungry.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
I'm thinking about like hot mustards and things like that.
Well, here's something my mom used to make, and that was what we call chow chow. And some people just call it relish, I think. But she made some that was a little bit spicy, not much. But some people make this stuff really hot, depending on what kind of peppers they put in it. And this was I don't know, this is probably not just a Southern thing anymore, but it kind of gets, the recipes are, a lot of them are said to come from the South. And we used to put this in beans, like soup beans and that sort of thing. You just take the jar and take your spoon and ladle you in a big spoonful and stir it into your beans. Sometimes I really like it.
Oh, dude. Now you're really getting crazy.
Is that making you hungry, or you don't want to put anything in
Oh,
your beans?
just like, no, I'm just like a big old pot of soup beans and onions and
Oh, well, I'm from
big
the
old
South.
pan of cornbread.
Yeah. Buttered cornbread, hot from the oven.
And some chow mixed in on top of that, those beans, man alive.
Well, there's another example of things that, get canned in various ways. And, there's fruits here, there's peppers here, there's some cauliflower, there's some little onions. And that looks like little potatoes there. That's peaches down there. I know my peaches.
Now, are those canned or these are pickled? They're not canned.
Yeah, I think these are pickled. I think this was out of a pickled, which makes me wonder if those are potatoes, if it's pickled. Sure, now that could be pickled eggs.
I mean, like you can take something totally inedible like a green bean and turn it into something edible by pickling it.
Oh, inedible. I think I got some green beans here somewhere.
I'm just showing my I'm a little bit anti green bean.
You're showing your aversion to green beans.
Yeah, and peas too. I don't know if you can eat a pea.
Hey, Rhonda, look. Wait a minute. You don't know if you can what?
I'm not sure you can eat a pea. Like
Hey, Rhonda, or whoever's talking about pearl onions, look in this second jar from the left on the top. That almost looks like onions with a peach in the middle. What do you make of that?
Oh, that's weird looking. But that's exactly what that looks like.
It is, but that's an interesting mix, a sweet with a savory, if you will.
Because there's green beans right there in that first jar, I think.
Well, no, this very first jar's got green and red peppers, I believe.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of onions pickled there, though.
Yeah, there are.
Jars, man.
Okay, so we got to look back on when, how people did it in the olden times when if we happen to catch and spear us a big old mastodon or woolly mammoth, whatever that is. Is that a woolly mammoth? It's hairy. Not that matters.
It's a large creature with huge tusks.
Yeah.
It looks more mastodonish in the head, but there you go.
Oh, I thought maybe Phil was texting me.
Down there on the bottom is fish.
Yeah, that's they're smoking fish. And then here's another way to hang and dry food. And in certain climates, like yours, you could probably almost get away with just drying things in the air.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we get, when we're even just hanging meat in camp, like if we're up hunting and kill a deer or something and you just hang the quarters up while you're just in camp, you dry a lot of meat unintentionally. Even you'll half inch of that hind quarter will be basically jerky on the outside.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen a show or a special or a documentary about Iceland, and they may do this in other places too, but Iceland takes shark meat.
Yeah.
They hang it up in these like barns or, kind of like a curing barn, like tobacco. And I don't think they smoke them. I think they just hang them.
They're just drying it.
Oh, and they eat it. And I've heard it's really, if you're not used to it, it's real nasty.
Well, and it's those Greenland sharks.
Oh,
Those
Tina's saying that was the bottom of an orange pepper. Oh, so you're saying it's like a habanero or something, Tina? A Scotch bonnet, maybe? That's possible. That would make more sense than a peach.
Yeah. But those sharks you were talking about, Tim, those Greenland sharks, and the meat is actually toxic to humans when it's raw or when it's fresh.
Yeah.
And they dry it, and that drying process makes it edible for some reason. And whoever figured that, that's one of those deals you're like, well, who figured that out? But they figured that out, that if you dried the meat out, you can actually eat that species. Whereas
you're saying it's a bell pepper. Well, that does make sense, Tina. That would work. Okay, Shelly, I don't know what a wallopini is, so you're going to have to explain that to me.
Wallopini.
I will watch for your explanation. All right, let's see what's next. Well, here's just some examples of things. Here, this is cannon. Look like cherries to me. I don't know if those are big beans or some kind of tart cherries, or they're bigger than what I kind of remember growing next door when I was a kid. I had neighbors that had a little row of cherry trees behind their house, but they were fairly small cherries. But when they get ripe, they were pretty tasty. And the great wallopini.
The great wallopini.
Yeah, Ian, you're better sick than most of us are well. And this is also an example of the wide-mouthed jar. Oh, it's a sunken greenhouse. Okay. That makes sense. Actually, I knew you were building that, but I didn't know. Where does the wallopini name come from, Shelley? Is that Native American, or is that
that's got to be Italian?
Well, maybe European, I was going to say. Ian says, I have more free time, not trying to work. Okay. We just want you to get well. Anyway, these are, things that are canned. And, beets. Brenda loves beets. She loves pickled beets. Corn. Is one of my.
That's another devil's fruit right there.
What, beets?
Beets. That's the devil's fruit.
Well, it's right beside green beans, so
it's right next to green beans and peas.
Both of which are on your do not eat list.
Exactly. And people keep telling me, "Oh, I make beets. You'll love these beets." And I'm like, I'm not gonna love those. They're beets, and they're like, "Oh, you'll like these ones." And I never do. So.
Okay, here's Shelley's. She says it's Native American, but it was also used in Russia and other cold climates. I believe that because I believe those cultures were very related, but that's another story. Something maybe one morning we'll really get into. I'd like to talk more about that. Ian says he'll take green beans, but you can keep the beets. Well, Brenda will take the beets. You can take the green beans. I'll eat the can of peas.
And I'll eat the green beans if they're pickled or if they're French style, but otherwise you can keep them.
Well, around here, a can of what we call a can of beans used to be one of my favorite snacks. Or peas, excuse me. I'll open up a can of peas and heat them up and just eat the whole can.
Oh.
Rhonda says, I want to try pickled beets and eggs as an adult. I wouldn't eat them as a child. You know what? Pickled eggs might surprise you. I think it's nasty thinking, or at least it is on my part. But I actually got some one time when I was really hungry. I was at a race and we were working, and back then Slim Jim was a sponsor, and they came around and handed out, Slim Jim sausages, and they had pickled eggs. And so I thought, what the heck? So we popped them open and ate them, and they were actually not half bad.
And Ian's talking about drenching green beans with cheese, and that makes them edible.
Well, that's edible green beans, but not healthy green beans. See, I like to do that with asparagus and broccoli, that kind of thing, Ian.
We
More
just did.
cheese, the better.
My wife just made Brussels sprouts with Parmesan over it, like 2 nights ago. Man, are they good!
And I've done that too. That's really somebody said, "Ew." That's the way a lot of there's two different ways to pickle eggs, Rhonda, and they do use beets or something. The purple ones are like that color. I mean, I guess the ones they pickle with beets are that red color. Peas and butter beans with.
They're actually pickling eggs with the beets.
Yeah, it must be. That's the only way I think they get the color, unless it's artificial. That's
interesting.
Shelly says peas and butter beans and cornbread. Let's go. I could probably do that. Okay, next page. Oh, and there's an example of those wide mouth jars. That's the ones we drink out of and use a lot, as opposed to the narrow. I should have put a narrow mouth jar in here just for comparison, but you probably know what I'm talking about.
Was that you had several? I think on.
I probably did on those previous pages. I mean, as far as I know, they still use them.
Yeah, I use them. I think that's the one you get most commonly now, but maybe not. Maybe I'm considering narrow mouth something different. But
peach schnapps is a whole different. Well, what about peach schnapps? I was thinking about peach schnapps. Brenda just bought some orange juice this week, and I thought, man, that'd make some good fuzzy navels. Well, Tina, that's because anything fried in bacon is going to make it better. Where'd she go? There it is. I think Brussels sprouts fried in bacon fat and drizzled with balsamic vinegar. Now, I haven't done it with the vinegar. I'll have to try that.
We're gonna have to try that next.
Yeah.
My wife had never eaten Brussels sprouts. I was like, they're just little.
Oh, really?
They're just little cabbages, and we've decided that's going to be a mainstay. So, but that sounds like a good way to prepare them as well.
I'm painting 3 different size ball jars for centerpieces for my daughter's wedding. Oh, that's cool. What are you painting on them? Like flowers or something else? You're very artistic. Anyway, this is kind of what my mom's freezer would look like. Now, she didn't use bags so much. She didn't have a sealer, and Ziplocs were still coming along, I guess. But she definitely used little plastic containers, although these look fancier than she had. And she'd put in, she would just about fill the freezer up with corn every year because we all just love corn. And so we'd eat cut off corn. Just, Now that's making me hungry. So here's what it takes to can at home. Here's the basic tools for canning. You need something to boil them in, cover them up in, and a rack to get them in and out with. Some people just use tongs. But Mom always did a combination of the boiling pan like this and pressure cooking. She pressurized a lot of stuff. And she had some big, oversized pressure cookers that she canned in. I think she had one, and her best friend Charlotte had one, and they would fire those things up, and it'd be an all-day thing to can beans. They'd have,
and that sound of that that rocker on top of that canner going all the time.
Yeah, just.
And my grandmother used to tell me, like, we were warned, like, don't get around that thing. It's going to blow. That canner's going to blow on you.
Yeah. Never saw it happen, but people talked about it. Let's see what Ian's up to here. Only Brussels sprouts I eat are my brother-in-law's, but that's because it's bacon sauteed with spices. It just with just little Brussels sprouts in there. I don't like big Brussels sprouts, I'll admit. I think they're a little bitter, but well, they're all a little bitter, but I like the smaller ones. I like to cut them in half and fry them, cook them in bacon fat would be excellent. Butter would work, or olive oil, I think is what we use a lot. Or what is it you've been using lately, Brenda?
My dog.
Maybe sunflower seed oil. I'm not sure, but she's been using something lately. And they just, and you season them up a bit, and that's not much for Brenda because she's not a big seasoner. And here's what Shelly's doing to the jars. Oh, that'll be neat. Rhonda says, I'm getting full and I have one more biscuit to eat. Now she's just rubbing it in.
Yes,
and Mike can't get biscuits. Mark can't get a steak biscuit. And
she's eating biscuits and gravy. Or
okay, here's some of those cans I was talking about. And what I thought was interesting is you can even get pull tops now that you can can at home. But it does take some kind of a sealing machine like this, or they make smaller ones. I meant to put a picture of a smaller one in here, and I thought I did, but I don't believe I did so. But this is like a drill press, so this is mechanized. You could probably run a lot of them through this. Look at that, Mark. I mean, that is a drill press head.
That's a pretty cool looking device right there.
And they've got this attachment on the bottom, and then you just lay the lid up there and you're done.
So you're sealing it just like you were running the company or whatever.
Yeah. Got a blue jay down here right by my door here.
I don't see him.
I know. I can't. He's up to something. Probably no good. We had a ball-headed blue jay here last week, Mark. I meant to tell you that.
The scalped one?
Yeah, he's pretty much scalped from the neck up.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. Okay, now we're moving to Mark's house.
Oh.
Well, that sent me these pictures to show and tell, and on the left here, I've just got it marked as some veggies, although that looks more like fruit down there.
That's peach jelly, peach jam. And then there's
Brenda had
tomato juice and tomatoes, canned tomatoes, and then my favorite coffee, the Mac V Sog Black Rifle coffee. I don't even know why that's in that photograph, but it is.
I do, because you wanted to show it.
And then the items over there on the right side of that photo are corn and tomatoes, which my people, that's how they can hundreds of jars of that every year.
How did they use that? In a soup or just by itself?
You just like pour that out and put potatoes in it and meat and make a stew. And so I decided I was going to continue that tradition, and I really like it, but I don't know that everybody does. But
Diana said something about, let me see here. You have to roast them with bacon until they get a bit crispy, no bitter. No. Oh, okay. You're talking about.
My wife did say it's good. Corn and tomatoes.
That's how he does it. Oh, that's how your brother-in-law. Okay, that you're still talking Brussels sprouts then. I got you. And Ian says, I didn't know you could do canned tips at home either. Are you talking about the meat? I don't know. Well, we'll catch up because on the right is something we never did when I was growing up. And I have to admit, unfortunately, Brenda and I, neither one brought these skills to our marriage, so we've never been canners. We used to go home and help my mom do canning and stuff sometimes. But I know what I was going to say before I forget the thought again. Mark, you remember, you know where Telford was, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when they had the old school down there, they turned it into a canning center?
Yeah, so that you could go to like if you were doing a bunch of canning, you could go down there and they had all the material or all the equipment stuff and can at Telford.
Okay, wait a minute here. My mom made homemade ketchup, and it was awful. Well, knowing your mom, well, I don't. I thought they no spices, but that might be there. Okay, Tina's accused me of something. Oh yes, Tim, we've got a whole separate squirrel running over here in chat. Yeah, you can count that one too,
You,
Tina. I noticed that. I just can't keep up with it.
you're not allowed to have squirrels in the chat. Only we're allowed for squirrel.
So anyway, I never heard of canning meat growing up until I met a guy. I had a friend that used to come over to our house a lot and drink coffee and do things with us. And he was from Mount Carmel, Tennessee, which is near where my people are from. And he canned sausages, not like link sausage, but more like patty sausages, what I'd call farm. Some people call farm sausage, but homemade patties. They make the sausage, grind it up, and then my uncles used to keep it in like a cheesecloth sack or something and hang it up in the basement with their other meats. And they spice it all up and let it hang for a while, and then you'd eat it. And you just take it out and wad up a piece, flatten it out, and have a sausage biscuit. Oh, now what are they doing?
What? No, I'm just listening to you, brother.
Was it
just wad you up a piece?
Well, yeah, you do. You just grab your chunk off the end and flatten it out and make a patty out of it, and you got sausage. And they like to put a lot of pepper in it, so that's probably where I got my taste for spicy stuff. Mom wouldn't eat it. So anyway, what is that, Mark? Is that antelope in that pan?
Yeah, that's probably a front shoulder off of an antelope all chopped up and getting ready to become canned meat.
So when did you start canning meat? Did you ever see that growing up?
What? Nope, never. Because we had my people all and your people and all of our local people had smokehouses.
Yeah.
And if you were going to cure meat, you smoked it. And we never canned meat, but out here in the West, it's pretty common. And I found out how to do it. And so that's how we preserve a lot of our meat or at least wild game is through canning.
And what other game have you canned or tried to can? Or
Deer, just deer and antelope.
I know you like antelope a lot, and I know you use it in things quite often. I've had your antelope before; it's pretty tasty.
Some people can fish.
Yeah, and it's real common out here, especially just east of here in the plains, for folks to can fish.
Yeah.
And there's like Nebraskans are infamous they'll even can carp and eat that on purpose. I can't figure out why, but but they'll
figure out why.
I can't figure out why you'd eat a carp on purpose, but
answer that question to Ian there. I'm going to turn my camera off a minute because I got to stretch my leg.
So what am I answering?
Oh, never had canned meat. He's saying he's never had canned.
Yeah. So I don't know what it does to it, Ian, but that antelope meat in particular is outstanding after you can it, and so I'd say it is yummy. It makes the best burrito meat on the planet, I think.
So go through kind of how you process that.
Well, I just clean the meat and cut it into chunks about an inch in an inch square, and pack a canning jar completely up to about a half an inch of the lid and just can it like I'd can a peach or corn or something.
And you don't pre-cook; it cooks in the. It's cooking some while it's in the jar. I mean,
it cooks in the jar, so it's cooked completely by the time you're done canning it. And you've got certain pressures and length of canning processing time that if you purchase a canner, or you can find it online, you can figure out how long you need to can certain items to seal the jars. And if the jar seals, it's good. It's done. And then I'll mix that with green chili and potatoes and just heat that up, and it makes a fine burrito or a stew.
Hope that helped answer your questions, Ian. I do have one more question though. You might have said this. I was stretching. What kind of seasoning do you put in that, or do you put anything in it before you can it?
Nothing.
Just the meat.
Just the meat.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when I'm like I said, usually with antelope in particular, I'm using it for making burritos or whatever.
I got to put this on there now. I'm reading this totally out of context, but I love it because it's from Tina. She said, "Rhonda, try that with a hound dog." They're talking about leaving food out and their dog's eating it or not eating it.
Oh.
And she says, "Just try that with a hound dog." Danny jumped on the table. Oh, we had a border collie. I don't know if you remember Jasper.
Yeah.
We had a border collie, and we were sitting in the house one day, Brendan. I don't know what we were doing, but he was in the house or came in the house, and we'd laid a roast out on the countertop to cook or thaw out, and she still got. What are you talking about, Brendan?
What are you talking about?
A nude basketball game. You said they were just wearing shirts, but I thought you were just kidding. Anyway, we went in there to get it, and it was gone. Jasper had lunch. And my husband fed Danny from the table. Now he begs. You know what? We didn't used to feed anybody at the table. Well, that's where we weren't, like cats. And then we ended up with begging cats anyway, even though we weren't doing it. Okay, so anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit, was your meat canning experiences. And there is wow, I got a lot of squirrel activity all of a sudden. I think that is a jar of your cantaloupe, cantaloupe. Antelope.
That's
your
fun
antelope
all day long. That's cantaloupe. Yep.
That's cantaloupe.
That's a jar of cantaloupe.
I can't imagine what kind of mush cantaloupe would turn into after you pressured it. And then on the right, you've got something new, or at least new to me.
Yeah, so that is totally, those are not canned. Those are just bolete mushrooms that have been, I dried them in a dehydrator and then put them in a jar just to store them.
So you hope, or you think, or you know that they'll stay good like that for a while, right?
Yeah, they'll stay good like that for indefinitely. And you just get them out and pour some water over them and rehydrate them and then cook them up.
Yes, Tina, they do. That's very true.
$40 a pound for those bolete mushrooms.
Really?
Yep.
And they're good. You say you like them.
Oh, they're wonderful. Yeah, they're really good. And we got lucky and found a big patch of them. A friend of mine told me about them, and they're exceptional.
We've got a big old.
My wife just walked by holding up a mouse that unfortunately fell prey to Mr. Victor.
Mr. Victor and his little.
Mr. Victor is taking care of one more deer mouse.
Yeah. There's a big old chipmunk out here and 2 gray squirrels, and Brenda put some corn out here on the ground, and I guess that's what they're after. That's a big chipmunk. That's one of the bigger chipmunks I've seen. Now there's a whole. We hadn't fed the squirrels lately, and there's like 4 or 5 out there right now, chasing each other off, running each other up the wall.
So Ian said he's a fun guy, so he likes mushrooms.
That's good to know, Ian. I might have to come out and visit you sometime. Oh, I forgot to turn my camera back on. Sorry.
And Diana said, "My wife is brave." she has. We have a seasonally we get infestations, unfortunately.
Yeah, we do too.
And my wife didn't quite like that need to deal with those at first, but anymore she just handles it. So
okay, we're talking about food, and nobody's gonna like this probably, but I gotta bring it up. Did you ever see the movie Cry Wolf?
yeah, I love that movie. Never Cry Wolf. He ate mice.
Yeah, he started to eat those mice on the tundra up there because
that's what the wolves were doing.
That's right. He was eating what the wolves were eating. And he figured out, he tried to cook them all these different ways, like sauteed and boiled and just every way you can imagine.
He'd just stick them down in that beaker and cook them.
Yeah. Anyway, Rhonda's got to go. She's not going to talk about eating mice. Take care, Rhonda. Thanks for coming in. So anyway, that's Bleats, and that's something new for you. That's the first year you've gone looking for them, isn't it?
Well, I've hunted them before, and I've found a few over the years,
okay.
but this was the first year that we had like major success. That was a trap that just went off.
Yeah, that sounded like it didn't have anything in it.
It sounded like it was being set.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Did a finger get trapped?
I didn't hear a yelp, but
so mainly I'm going to squirrel. You mainly got deer mice. Do you have any Russians or house mice there?
No, we just have hantavirus carriers.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's always good that you're like only mouse species is the hantavirus mouse. So.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? So then I got back to ads that encouraged this, and this was a picture that I found on, and these are all out of magazines in the day, and this is the older lady teaching the younger wife perhaps how to can foods, and then I really like these two on the right. These were war posters, and every garden's a munition plant, and sign your country's pledge to save the food, U.S. Food Administration. And I'm not sure, honestly, these almost look like World War I posters to me.
Yeah, probably.
And because they don't look, the World War II ones were a little bit different, but I'm not sure. But I find this interesting, and Ian, or not Ian, but Mike and Diana, I found a lot of posters, and Canada was into World War I long before we were, and I found a lot of pictures and ads for Canadian canning. I forgot to put one in here. I apologize. It was not on purpose. Like here's another one, for a free book on home canning and home drying, right to the National War. And this is also that's why I think it's called World War I in this case, because they're calling them war gardens. And I thought in World War II they were victory gardens. That might have just been in England, but I was thinking they called the gardens when you were doing your own thing to encourage people. I thought they were victory gardens when FDR was in charge. But so I think these might be also World War Ones. But so I mean, this is not. I knew they did this during World War II, and there was a lot of this going on. But for some reason, I just never thought about it being World War One. But it would have been Europe. I know was starving at that time. They were about used up. So I'm not too surprised that they were doing that. I just noticed something on this home pickling book. If you look at the little book she's reading, that's her on the cover. Interesting. I think that's my last one. Yeah. So that's the end of the slideshow. You stayed awake, Ian. I'm proud of you, buddy.
He said he's Canadian, eh?
Hey.
He could be anyway.
So that's it for pictures, but let's talk a little bit more about canning because, like I said, I was interested because you grew up around stuff like that, but you'd never done it till you moved out west, had you? I mean, yourself?
No, I talked to Mom and my older female relatives, and my wife has been involved with it a bit, and we dug into whatever information we could find on the interweb, and when you get, like, if you buy like a pressure cooker, it comes with a book that tells you kind of how to can, and that's just what we did. And the really important part is making sure your jars are good and clean and sterilized, and if you do that, if you follow the rules and cook it at the temperatures and the pressures it says to cook it, it works.
And make sure the lids pop and seal.
Yeah, man. If the lids are if the dimple on the lid is depressed, then it canned.
We're gonna give a shout out here to Ian's lovely bride. She brought him breakfast. That's very nice of her to do.
Well, hopefully that means he's feeling better.
What'd she bring? Well, unless she just brought him some chicken broth or something. But anyway, like I said, my mom cooked all my life. Certain times of the year, you're right. All you heard was that rattle and hiss or whistle, that little weight on top of the pressure cooker, bouncing around up there as it let off pressure. And I used to hear people talk about that, things units blowing up and whatnot, but I honestly don't know if she was ever really afraid of that because she did it all the time. I mean, she never, and I'm sure she took care of them and watched them and looked, made sure the seals were good and all that. But,
we had such a big garden. My family did anyway, my grandparents. That garden was enormous, and my grandmother canned, seemed like every day during the summer that pressure cooker was going. Yeah. They were canning something. And then they had a big cellar and kept, there's probably jars of green beans in that cellar still from 1970.
Probably. Well, that's what, mom and dad used to plant. For years we had a small garden, and then we moved, and they didn't have a garden spot at that house. Really didn't have, I guess they could have put one in the backyard, but it was pretty shady, so I don't know how that would have worked. And so my granddad had plenty of room on his farm, and he had some garden spots, so they'd go down there and work a spot down at his place. And they would always put out okra and stuff like that to eat when it was fresh, but they always put out several rows, and pretty long rows for back here for them of beans, and sometimes a couple of different kinds of beans, but mostly just basic green beans. and corn. They would plant several rows of corn because, like I said, we love all God's children loves corn. So at least in our house, they did.
Yeah.
So and I got that habit bad. I could when I was in high school, I could about eat my weight in corn on the cob, and probably still could. Truth be told. Actually haven't lost appetite much. Not been the most severe, thankfully. Well, that's good, Ian. I'm glad. You still haven't told us what she made you. And it's okay if it's like instant, Pop-Tart or something. That's okay.
Or a hearty steak biscuit.
Or a hearty steak biscuit. I bet he don't have hearty steak biscuits either, though. He's not that far east of you.
I don't think so.
You
can't even get them I stopped at a Hardee's in Iowa, and they looked at me like I had three heads when I said, "Hey, give me a couple steak biscuits."
I remember one time, I believe I've got this right. We stopped in Indiana at a Hardee's or a McDonald's and asked for sausage biscuits or something, and they looked at us like we had three heads. They only had sausage on muffins.
Right.
If I recall, which now is, called a sausage and egg McMuffin. We have them here too, but for that one time we just had biscuits and they just had muffins. So
right.
He had oatmeal and an English muffin. Well, that's okay. I feel lucky if I get oatmeal and an English muffin. Brenda probably wasn't listening to that, I hope. Yada, yada, yada. Well, how much experience have you had drying meat and jerkies and that kind of thing? You do much of that now?
Well,
Shelley has it. Well, wait a minute now. This is interesting before you go there. Shelley has a grandmother in Wyoming.
Yeah, in Riverton.
I didn't remember that. Grew raspberries, made jams and jellies. She did canning and pickling as well. That's cool. What part of the state is Riverton?
Right dead center of the state.
Right dead center.
It's right off it's on the east edge of the Wind River Indian Reservation.
Oh, okay.
So we have, you were asking about drying meat, and yeah, we have dried meat. I've dried meat. I've made jerky in the oven, which is kind of I don't know, seems to be kind of a labor-intensive activity because I put a toothpick in every piece of meat and hang it on the rack and let it dry in the oven.
Hey, Brian, welcome in.
And our dehydrator, we can make jerky in the dehydrator too. So.
Well, I used to have one, and the trays got broken, and I asked Brenda if we still had it, but she said no. So I don't know if that means I can't have another one or not. But
a dehydrator, or
yeah,
I like that. My wife has made. I'm trying to think. Oh, she did fruits in the dehydrator, apples and things, and it's good for that. And it worked wonderful for the mushrooms, and so it's good stuff.
I'll tell you what I did, and this was from a recipe, and I had it. Mine came with some tools, I think, unless I used something else. But anyway, I actually made some ground beef jerky.
Yeah,
and spiced it all up, and then in my case, I had
a jerky shooter.
Yeah, a jerky shooter.
It's like a caulking gun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I've got one of those too, and out here, a lot of the people that, if they're big waterfowl hunters, if they hunt geese and ducks a lot, that's kind of what they're doing with most of their waterfowl meat, is grinding it and then making jerky out of it. And I can't hardly stand to eat a goose, like,
right,
prepared appropriately, in the proper manner. But I really like them as jerky. So.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Brian says he'd like to have some of that Bambi jerky. Well, Bambi jerky would probably be pretty tender, I'll have to admit. Yeah, I didn't know you could do that. I've seen people make turkey jerky, and I never heard about goose jerky, but that makes sense. Goose and ducks both, you kind of got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Wild ducks and geese, anyway.
Yeah.
And I know I tried to fix a Canadian goose one time, and it turned out awful. I didn't know what I was doing.
I cooked one for Christmas one year, and and of course we didn't grow up in big waterfowl country,
Right.
so we weren't waterfowl people. But I had my buddies tell me how to prepare the goose for, and I put it in a bag and I put jelly inside of it and all the stuff you're supposed to do. I'd like plucked it and singed the pin feathers off of it, and it was all done correctly, and it was the most awful thing I've ever tried to eat. And I'm like, well, I'm done hunting geese.
Oh, Shelley said her uncle used to make emu jerky.
Yeah, there's quite a few folks out west here that raise emus and ostriches too for meat.
There used to be a place not far from here, an old fashioned, actually, an old drive-in kind of food stand.
Yeah,
looked like something. It wasn't a McDonald's or anything, but it looked like something from the 50s or 60s, literally. And it's called, I think it was a Tasty Freeze or something. Anyway, they used to advertise out front in the big old sign that they had. One of the things they had was ostrich burgers, and I never got to eat one, but everybody I knew that had them said they were actually pretty darn good.
Yeah, I've never eaten either one, but I've heard it's good.
Look at Brenda here. She remembers laying in bed at night when she was a kid and hearing the lids pop on the green beans. And her mom, I know she told me this yesterday when I was doing this. She said they'd count them. Her mom would lay there and try to count them or listen for them and see if they all popped. And if you've never canned, you might not know what that means. But when as they cool down after you've cooked them, heated them up, brought them back down to pressure and all that stuff, the lids will collapse inward, I guess is one way to say it. And when they do that, they'll make a popping sound. And they're done. That's when they're sealed.
There's a dimple on the center of the lid.
Yeah. It makes a dimple.
And if it doesn't suck in and if it doesn't quote unquote pop,
don't eat it.
It doesn't work.
Or redo it or something. Usually if it's fresh, you can redo it,
redo it or eat it that day.
Yeah, or eat it that day. Mike says he doesn't eat Canadian goose. He sees them at the dump eating garbage, kind of turn off. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I could tell some interesting Canada goose stories. Now I don't know if you've got native geese, Brian or Mike, or if they were more really of an eastern flyway kind of a goose. But most Canadian geese down this way are what they call the large variety of Canada goose that don't migrate. That's why they hang around all the time and are such a nuisance.
And live at the golf course.
But that part doesn't bother me so much. But we used to have a lot of problems with people complaining about them, pulling up their fresh grass, their new grass, and eating their grass, but crapping all over everything. That's what really gets people. If you've got a dock or a back porch, or they crap everywhere. So that's a problem. And Mike says ostriches and emus are good for you if you have problems with red meat. That's true. And it's interesting you said that, Mike. And I've been reading about this lately because it's become more common, I guess, or more accepted now that it's true. But I used to work with a guy that couldn't eat red meat anymore because he had Lyme's disease. And there are certain people after they've had Lyme disease actually get that.
They can't
I
eat
don't know if
red
it's
meat
a
anymore.
virus or an allergy, and they can't eat red meat,
Right.
which I think is wild. I mean, it just seems like such a crazy thing.
You
Kelly said
imagine not being able to eat steak because the darn tick bit you?
I'd never have to eat it and just take the consequences at least once in a while. She said her cats like to lay on the stack of ball jars in the hallway. Ours would if we had some. I always hear the lids popping. And Brenda says, the plant the corn and you plant the green beans with them. Yeah, that's people did that here. You plant green beans around corn so that the green beans would grow up the stalks. And sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't, but that's what a lot of people did. And I guess you had the right beans because some beans climb better than others. We used to make, I don't know where Dad got the poles, but we used to make like a teepee in the garden around certain bean plants, and they climb up the poles. And they always just call those pole beans.
Yep.
And we can those too. I remember there was something we cooked. Mom called them October beans. We canned one year, or they had in the garden, and some reason I never did really like those. They were a bigger bean, but I liked the others, which were just to me just plain old turned into more like pintos in a way. But we had green. She canned a lot of green beans. We ate green beans a lot, and later in life they always had a lot of green beans. She'd give us some to bring home all the time we were up there visiting. And I'll have to admit, I really like my mama's canned green beans.
Even though they're not edible.
Even though they're not edible, yeah. I don't know if Phil doesn't like either green beans or peas either. And I remember we felt bad because Brenda and I found out about that. He'd come to eat with us a lot, or many times, and I'm sure we fed him something green he probably didn't like, at least every once in a while, because he'd come to our house and it wasn't uncommon for us to have peas or green beans on the table.
Well, I'm funny because I like mustard greens and spinach and Brussels sprouts and broccoli, but I never liked green beans, never liked peas. I always disagreed with Forrest Gump about peas and carrots because I love carrots, but I hate peas.
Come here, Kenny. Hop up, bud. You want to get on camera? No. Not interested today, huh? He had to get down to get over by the door. I've got a sliding glass door in this end of the room, and there he is. Say hi. Come over here just a little bit closer. You can get more on the screen. Look up here. See Mark?
Ted?
Mark's talking to you.
Hey, buddy.
Pay attention.
Look up here. There you go.
Like, ain't I handsome? I'm a handsome boy. I've got a dirty nose, too.
He is a handsome boy.
I'm a good boy, according to Tim. I'm a real good boy. Most of the time he is. He is pretty good. He ain't the. If he comes begging, it's because he's really hungry or something. And he does have a pretty strong affection for food. I'll tell you that.
Oh my gosh, Tina. Eating raw green beans like these tater chips.
Uh-oh, what's she saying about Mike Cabal said something about high blood pressure? Now, wait a minute. What was there another sentence to that, Mike?
He was talking about emu meat, maybe.
Oh, emu and ostrich, yeah, probably. I know I've had a bout of gout years ago, and it really hurt. I had it in my my lower ankle. And most people, my doctor told me that most people have it, like in your toes and stuff. But that's what she thought was going on with my ankle. And so I've been on medicine or taking medicine for that before. So, hey, welcome back, Rhonda. But we also, you also used to drink cherry juice. And get real cherry juice, not like Kool-Aid or something, but real cherry juice or wild cherry juice or whatever they call it, dark cherry juice, tart cherry juice. There's different kinds, and that's got some other acid in it or a base because that's what gout's all about. It's an acid. I think it's an acid in your that builds up from rich foods and whatnot, and it can affect your joints. It's like little spikes on your joints, or on the bone, and that's other acid or alkali substances in the juice, whichever it is, actually works to get rid of that. So they kind of work against each other, and it'll help. It helps a lot. I know a lot of people say that's all they've had gout, and that's all they ever did was drink cherry juice, and it went away. So they'd keep drinking it, like a glass a day or something like that. Not huge amount, but I don't know if anybody else, Shelly, have you ever heard that kind of? Oh, I know what I was going to comment on, Shelly. Right when all that came up, Shelly said, "So yeah, my father was from Nebraska, my mom from Mississippi." Oh, that wasn't what I was going to highlight. This was what I meant to highlight. Memory of sitting on the back porch at Mama's in Mississippi, shelling peas is one of my favorite stories. That's why that's interesting to me, Shelly. Is my cousin. I have a cousin that used to talk about that too, and she and I were working together for a little while trying to put some stuff together. I don't know why that just happened. Um, from some family history. Why does it Are you still got your TV on or your whatever you're using? Huh? All right, let me know if I pop back up. Because I'm trying to. I'm trying to reboot. I'm trying to see if it'll restart here. Okay, I'm back. If anybody's left. You still got your TV on or your whatever you're using? I'm back. If anybody's left. Huh? All right, let me. I didn't need for you to hear all that. I didn't need for you to hear all that. Okay, that's what it is then, because I went to other things and they were working, so I restarted StreamYard, and it let me get back in right where I'm at because it's giving me a time span of an hour and something. So that's right. I bet Mark doesn't come back, though. I'd say he's gone for the day. I don't know if he'll try again or not. He might. Let me try to send him a note. Sometimes the wires don't go all the way to Wyoming. Let's see if he responds to that. So anyway, well, it's just probably about time to wrap things up anyhow. So has anybody got any other comments, or you see a string bean bear? Yeah, you do. I put in string beans because growing up, that's what we call them. I don't know if that's just this part of the country, but for green beans, we always string our green beans. I don't know, maybe in other places they just leave them, but we always pulled ours out or cut them out. And my mom could always do that a lot better than I could. And Rhonda says she went on Twitter, and StreamYard is having issues today. I believe that. I like to think it's not just me. It doesn't look widespread, but they're working on some things. Interesting. Thank you, Rhonda, for that information. Snap bean. Well, yeah, I guess that too. People call them snap beans. We would, because that's what we would do. We'd peel the string out and then snap them in 3 or 4 pieces. And that's what we put in the jars. So that's what was cooked and pressured and put in the jars, Shelly. I don't use Twitter, Rhonda. I've refused to use Twitter up till now because it just always seems so even more political than I want to get. Grandma called them string beans, but her family was from your neck of the woods. Well, that makes sense then, Ian, if she was from around here. Because that's, like I said, but I do know people that call them snap beans. I mean, and I don't know if that, Shelly may know this. I don't know if that's just a particular type of green bean that actually does that well or not. But, that's what we always did. Why do I have a... Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. Let me see if that was... There he is. Welcome back, Uncas. I didn't know if you came back or not.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah, apparently StreamYard is having some troubles. And I went out, started it all over again, and I popped right in, and it's the same stream. Sometimes you don't get to come back on the same stream. But it is because I can see the counter up here, and it's still been counting from earlier. We were just discussing a little bit about string beans. I'm a string bean bear today. And I grew up calling them string beans. Some people call them snap beans. I thought they were kind of one and the same thing, but then again, I didn't always know what they were poking in the ground and planting.
All I knew is that we had miles of them to hoe. And if my hoe would slip and hit a bean plant,
that wasn't good.
It was fine with me because they're not edible.
Yeah, but you probably got in trouble for that from somebody.
Yeah. I've told people all of my toes have scars in the ends of them. And they're like, well, what's that from? And I'm like, that's from hoeing.
Yeah, I used to know somebody that's, I don't know if this was you or who this was, used to swear to me that the hoe wasn't really invented for hoeing the garden. The hoe that we typically use today wasn't used for hoeing the garden. It was really made for country women and housewives to kill snakes out in the yard.
Yeah.
And my mom broke a couple of hoes trying to get snakes.
And as far as I was concerned, that the only good use of a hoe was to hunt ginseng.
Oh, yeah. That would make sense.
Depends on your definition of hoe. Don't
What
you?
did she say?
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it. She said, don't you repeat that, what I just said.
That's not nice. We have.
She said that. I'm not going to say it. She told me not to. I'm
Well,
going
Shauna, come on the air and you say it.
follow orders. She's not. What did you say now?
He wants you really bad.
Yeah, I want to tell him what you said.
Go ahead.
Well, you can tell me
I
another
can't
time.
even remember it now. So there you go.
That's a selective.
Something about what your definition of a hoe was.
Oh. Well, that's another topic altogether.
That's a whole nother issue.
We'd have to go follow the History Channel's lead on that and talk about the brothels and well, they've got a TV show now about how brothels and beer built the country or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Tina said something about ginseng. It's around here. I don't know about Wyoming.
And Ian heard what she said.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it's right there. He caught it the first time because he typed it in.
I see it now. Well, I didn't hear it, but then again, my clock said he thought that's pretty funny.
And I thought that was hilarious because I can barely hear her, and I'm right here beside of her.
Well, he's closer to her than I am. So,
Yeah.
lady of the evening is the oldest profession. That's true, Shelley.
Oh, there's a squirrel.
But only after she said it was okay. Yeah, there's a squirrel. What was I saying? Now I forgot what I was saying.
I don't know. We were talking about string beans and snap beans.
Yeah, but just now.
and
we were
hoes
talking
and
about
ginseng.
Oh, ginseng, yeah. Mark grew up hunting ginseng a lot more than I did. He had an uncle that did a lot of that and sold it, I guess. We have it down here, and there are patches of it that are pretty big and mostly highly guarded by the people if they want to grow it, because sometimes ginseng brings a fair bit of money for a pound of it. It takes a lot of it to make a pound of
Takes
dried
about a
ginseng.
darn paper grocery sack full of it wet to make a dry pound.
Yeah, but
it was worth hunting. It was one of my every summer. That's gathered money up through that hunting that plant.
Oh, Shelley, that's cool. You mean one that's dual toned, black and gray? Take a picture of that. I'd love to see it, unless you already have and I missed it. Yeah, okay, good.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I don't think that it makes sense, though. They're the same species. I just don't think I've ever seen one colored like that.
Well, I would. I mean, unless it's a big old black and gray colored fox squirrel, which also exists.
That could happen. Yeah, I have seen that. But I kind of expect that. Ian says, does ginseng just grow in the wild? They've tried to domesticate it and plant it, but it just doesn't work well that way for whatever reason. Oh, two squirrels, one gray, one black. Well, if you get some striped babies, let us know. I used to know a guy, and I think Mark's uncle did this too, that he would take the seeds off the ginseng. And Mark's uncle showed me something. I mean, he always he'd always, when you dig it, you of course take the whole plant, but it's got red berries on top for the seeds. What are you after, boy? And he always used to put the seeds back in the ground, right where he dug up the ginseng, because that's the thing about ginseng is it just doesn't grow everywhere. It's usually kind of particular where it grows. And I think he tried to grow some in patches, didn't he, Mark?
He did. He had a whole hillside full of it there.
But it's a natural
behind the
setting
barn that, you know, he planted over the years. But there had been wild ginseng that grew in that same location, and he just added to it. But there were strict rules. Now I think there's laws about it, but we had self-imposed conservation rules, I guess, on ginseng that you never hunted, you never dug it until the berries were ripe.
Yeah.
And it had produced seed. You never ever just went out whenever and dug it. You just had to. And that way, there was always ginseng there growing.
Right, because if you know what you're looking for, you don't. Some people used to talk about finding it by the red berries, but if you know what you're looking for, you don't need berries. And somebody like Mark, who I've been out in the field with a lot, he tends to. He's real good at forming a mental picture of things, so you find it. I used to have another friend that could find 4-leaf clovers. I could look at the patch and not see anything, and he could just look, and there it was. You know, it's a mental picture that some people form. I think you've got that well. I was never as good at that as you are. I mean, you do things like that with arrowheads and ginseng, and I mean, you've just looked
Antlers.
at them so much.
Antlers, deer
Yes, and ginseng is native to North America. If it's not, please correct me, but I'm pretty sure it is.
It is. It's also, I mean, I think it's one of those, what do they call that? Where it's a global plant, or at least in the northern hemisphere. Because it grows wild in China and places as well.
I would think so, since they've used it historically.
It's pretty much extinct over there in the wild. I think they've, overutilized it.
That's why here.
Yeah, so that's why it's so valuable in our country, is because we still have it in the wild, at least.
I know we had rules about taking it. There are rules about digging ginseng on federal properties. We had some rules about that. And
there's seasons now. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
States have actually, like, you can dig it from this date to this date, but not before that.
Ian, you may not be feeling good, buddy, but your wit's still as sharp as ever. I know I said that before. He said, to stop this from being a squirrel chase, can you can it?
Absolutely.
And you can dry it.
You can dry it and store it in a jar.
Yep. He was saying he thought it was Asian. And that's why there's such a market for it. Like Mark was saying, that it's not common over there anymore. But they've been using ginseng for a long, long time in herbal medicines and for whatever other reasons, virility. And so the market, and I guess the market kind of goes up and down depending on what the demand is, and maybe that depends on whether they've got more domestically. But and it's the same plant as far as I know. There may be some subspecies differences, but it comes out the same. And here's another thing that I've always been told: it's more valuable. Well, you tell him, you get him off of Spooky. He opened a little can of whoop ass on Spook, she said.
Uh-oh.
Spooky's the old cat. He usually fends for himself, but he's getting old and not as agile as he used to be. Anyway, if you dig a plant and it looks something like a man, I always heard those were more valuable, at least once you get them to that market.
and they're really old. And those tend to be old plants to
Yeah.
boot, and big. You know, the root is a big root, and yeah, that's for whatever reason a very valuable plant. But we used to just all just roll it into one pile and sell it.
Well, we sell it by weight, and then maybe once it gets to wherever it's going, they may break it down into chunks, and that might be they might be able to sell that one root for a whole lot more money.
So we always sold our ginseng to the same guy that bought fir.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
the local fur buyer would buy ginseng by the pound.
What was his name?
Well, various.
Oh.
I mean, we had a variety, but the guys that I always sold ginseng to were just the same guy would sell muskrat hides to or whatever.
Okay. Well, that's kind of figure. I guess that makes sense because they're into that kind of buying and selling stuff.
And you know, like Louis Cochran, he would buy.
That's who I was thinking of. I couldn't remember his name.
He would buy fox pelts from me and ginseng.
Oh, okay. And now Dale kind of hunted it on a larger scale, didn't he? I mean, he
was always doing something.
Yeah, well, true. So Ian, just so you know, Teddy was bored, so he's up there causing trouble. I don't know, Brenda. He's been over here he's frustrated. He's been over here at the window a lot this morning, chasing his own squirrels, and he can't get to them, so he's probably just wanted to hit somebody. He's a lot bigger than poor old Spooky. Spooky's a little guy, and Teddy's just he'd make 4 or 5 of Spooky easy.
Plus, he's not 9,656 years old.
True. I mean, Spooky's 21 in people years. I'm not sure what that is in cat years. Even good cat. Hey, get up here. I heard you were making trouble. What's the matter with you? Hey, what's up? You up there beating on Spook? Or tell everybody you're sorry. I think maybe he is wanting attention. I don't know. Mostly he just wants to sleep, don't you? He's bad about putting me to sleep. You know, if he lays on me long enough, I'll usually go to sleep. And then he gets down and goes somewhere else. Anyway, ginseng is another. Okay, Ian said that Teddy is like our Smokey. He's big. Smokey is not happy that he is locked out of his favorite napping bed. Well, yeah, that does tend to, get him riled up. Teddy's, he's got several favorite napping spots, though. He don't really have a problem finding a place to nap. He said cats are supposed to get 20 hours a day at least, and he works on that real hard. I don't know if I could let. Uh-oh, Shelly's got a raven flying over. That could be a sign, Shelly. I can't think of any other plants that are like ginseng that people stored or sold.
Bloodroot.
What?
Bloodroot.
Well, bloodroot maybe, yeah.
But it wasn't near as valuable.
And correct me, but I think I don't know really what the real name for them is, but like shelf fungus on certain trees, isn't some of that edible?
Mm-hmm.
Nevermore.
Nevermore. Quote the Raven.
Brenda beat Ian to it, he said. Tina said, "Oh, Shelly, watch over your loved ones." Okay, let's Raven. It's not an owl, A lot of Native Americans, if an owl flew over, they thought that was a sign of death coming. I'm reading the book right now. I'm reading. Actually, it's nothing new. It's For Whom the Bell Tolls, I believe. Hemingway, and there's an old Spanish lady that talks about the owl, hearing the owl or seeing the owl and it bringing a death. It's funny how those stories or legends kind of go around the world. Oh, Brendan, once I pondered, weak and weary. My favorite Poe poem is El Dorado. In search of El Dorado. I can't remember. I can't recite it on demand. I have to just be thinking about it. But anyhow, I was thinking there was one other thing. I mean, back many years ago, and this is probably where some of maybe the song came from and the tradition. But the eastern United States was largely covered by native chestnut trees. So not only did people gather the chestnuts for hog food or let their hogs eat them, they also kept them and they sold them too. I've read stories about people bringing in gunny sacks or burlap sacks full of chestnuts and selling them at the train station. They would throw them on trains and they would take them up in the Northeast, and so people could roast them and whatnot for the holidays. That was a business that people could earn a little money that way too. Back when we had chestnuts, unfortunately, we don't anymore. Shelley says she wants a raven friend so bad. She puts peanuts out to try to get them here. Maybe a squirrel carcass might be better. I don't know. They'll eat. They like meat too. Or at least they like it. They like carrion.
We have tons of them here. They'll eat anything that won't eat them first.
You even have normal crows out there?
Yeah. We've got a pair of them nesting in the yard right now.
Oh, wow.
So we have common crows, but most of our blackbirds are big, are northern ravens.
We have a few.
Lots.
Go ahead.
No, I just said we had a lot of them.
We have them here, but they're mostly high in the mountains. I mean, there's not a lot of them down here, but you can. So we used to hear them and see them up on Untitled.
Yeah, that's where we always saw ravens, was up in that country. That's my wife's phone, if you're hearing that.
What does that sound, a duck?
It's a duck.
I thought somebody's making a call, blowing a call or something.
No, it quit.
Probably a warning you're about to have company or something.
I suspect.
When you got to run your crawdad traps.
This evening.
Let me see if I can pull this up. You guys are not going to believe this pile of crawdads that he had, that he got local, not from the swamps of Louisiana.
Yeah, we have way more crayfish than they do. Nobody knows that, but
I didn't realize it was such a big deal out your way.
Nobody eats them except some of us displaced persons.
Oh, here it is. I'm telling you, if you like crawdad boils and that sort of thing, this is gonna whet your appetite. Let me see if I can make it great big. That's probably big enough. And that's what a crawdad boil looks like at Mark's house.
Yes, it does.
Man, that corn and those potatoes just got my mouth watering, I'll tell you. I see you use like Old Bay seasoning, or you got some other special seasoning?
No, we got some Louisiana mud bug dust that we put on there. I got a crawdad boil that I put on them when I'm cooking them.
Yeah.
And in the pot with them, and then and the corn and the potatoes and the kielbasa and all of it. And then I've got this stuff called swamp dust that you can just sprinkle on it dry to add to the heat, because my My oldest son-in-law, he wants them hot.
Yeah. I might be able to make this a little bigger.
We do these about
Not much though.
3 times a summer.
And he catches all those right out in
Right
front.
in my backyard.
Yeah, in his backyard in the river there, the Hams Fork River, which amazes me. And here's an example of what we've talked about in the past. Here, crawdads, crawfish, crayfish, whatever you want to call them. I grew up calling them crawdads. Aren't native to Wyoming, which I didn't realize. I just never thought about it. And they were introduced out there by, I don't know, was it Fish and Game?
No, it was Bait Bucket Charlie, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. And now
You know,
once they got out there, they exploded.
Yeah, and they took off.
So how long do they? I mean, how long do they think they've been out there now?
Oh, for 80 years or 100
Well, I was
years.
going to say 80 to 100 years, but they're
Yeah,
in most of the streams, if not all. And Mark says they're just thick, and I don't
big,
know.
and they're big. They
And they're
grow
big,
huge.
yeah. Yeah, if you look at that pile of crawfish there, that's there's some big mud bugs in there.
Yeah, we get them that are they'll be 7-8 inches from tip to tip. So
That's a big one.
yep, yeah, they're worthy.
That makes me hungry. That looks so good. I had a few other pictures I didn't show earlier that I
What
thought
is that?
that is duck.
That's what?
That's a cured duck piece of duck.
Really?
And I don't know if that's the breast meat, but look at that layer. I've always heard that duck had a lot of fat.
That's got to be, yeah, that's fat. And that, how'd they cure it?
I read a little bit about it, but I don't remember. But it's cured. I mean,
It looks like a
let me put
mushroom.
it this way, it's dried somehow. It might be smoked.
Looks good.
Yeah, it does look good. That'd be nice on your charcuterie board or whatever it's called. I wanted to show that too, because that was also something. I think that was another Spanish specialty. And then you got things like pancetta, which is sort of a bacon.
That looks good.
And this is all the other, not pancetta, but I'll think about it in a minute. It's good with cantaloupes.
Yes, Shelley. The answer to your question, yes. Absolutely. Always.
You gotta suck the head and blow the tail. I mean, no, suck. Well, how'd that go? Eat the tail and suck the head, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, I forgot to mention this one. Here's another thing that gets pickled a lot, especially in places where they grow olives. Now, I'm more of a black olive person. I don't much like greens, but as much. That's canned turkey.
Oh, yeah.
So there's an example of canning, white meat or that kind of meat. There's another picture of the can. These are canned.
Try that.
You usually get a couple of wild turkeys.
Yeah, I kill a few wild turkeys. I might have to try that. I never even thought of that.
Give that a go. There's dried tomatoes. And I think I read these were sun dried. I have an example of somebody that these were being prepared to put in the oven and do an oven dry. And I'm not sure how long it takes to do tomatoes. I wouldn't think it would take as long as it does to make jerky, though. Tomatoes, I think, would dry out pretty quick under any kind of direct heat. I think I showed that picture. That's more chow. Okay, how can I make that keep moving? I don't want to. I feel like might be missing some stuff. Everybody hang on a minute. I'm going to make you sick. Prosciutto. That's what I was trying to say. And here's another can, Mark, that you can latch on, and that
and then it's a pop top.
And then it's a pop top, which I didn't know they made pop tops like that. I thought you had to use a can opener.
So
And
do
they have
do you have to can? Do you have to? How do you prepare? I mean, does that go in the pressure cooker, or is that just you got to cook it and can it? I don't understand that
I
process.
think you would probably do it like you do a jar.
Yeah.
I would think you would prepare it and then cook it or pressure it, which is really the same thing, only a little different. And then you would, I mean, you'd have to seal the top before that, or it wouldn't, it wouldn't
Yeah.
preserve it like you need it to. I didn't know they did it in pop tops. That's a new thing. I wonder how expensive it is. And I meant to show this one earlier, but I didn't. Here's kind of what Mom's kitchen looked like when she was canning. I don't know if she had a scale. She pretty much weighed things out by what would go in a jar or a can or a bag. But she had a pot like this to boil them in, and she had a pressure cooker, actually, I think a little bigger than this. And her pressure cooker for canning had big screw knobs on top that, would screw down on top of the lid to hold it down, keep it from blowing off.
Well, mine has a lid that you set down on there, and then it's kind of got flanges on it.
Yeah.
And you turn it and lock it in.
I think that's what this one has.
It's twice the height of that thing.
Yeah, Mom's was taller too. That's what I thought was odd about that when it's short. You know what else they did? I know some of you guys have. I just now got a text with a picture of my friend's pickled beans. Oh, okay, pickled beans. Shelly says I haven't eaten wild turkey, but I heard that they ain't no butterball. No, they ain't no butterball, Shelly.
No.
Mark eats them a couple different ways. I used to have a cousin that would slice the breast real thin. He always fried his. He said that was the only way he liked it. But
I usually
like other wild birds.
I usually make soup, quite frankly, out of most of mine, and it'll take you all day to clean like a turkey leg.
Diana, if you're leaving, thanks for coming in, and you have a great day as well. We won't be here a whole lot longer.
Dean could tell us about turkey legs, but they're on a wild turkey leg, they got way more tendon than they got meat. But the meat is worthy and makes a really good soup. Anyway.
There's meat in a jar, another type, which look pre-cooked. And there's what I'd call string beans, or if they didn't snap, Shelly, and pop it on their own, we'd probably use a knife and just cut them in chunks to put them in the jar. Mike, see you later. See you later, everybody. I need to go find something else to do around the house besides painting. Run, Mike, run. Hopefully Diana's gone.
The fish have got to be biting.
Oh, yeah, there's a thought, Mike.
He lives in Canada, for crying out loud. There's got to be fish biting right now.
There's one of those. That's a very special cured ham. That's also pretty sure this is Spanish. I can't pronounce the name. Not the one that's on that. That's like D'Artagnan or something. But it's a Macchiato or something like that, and that's expensive by the slice. And I think they use that more for pancetta, like that. Oh, this is something that got my attention. Peach pie filling in a bag to freeze. Oh, I told Brenda that makes me want a peach cobbler real bad. And there's sliced pickles.
Oh, my.
Cucumbers. And that's your picture again. This is another example of how you do this in a bucket or a pressure cooker. That you put water in it, but not a lot of water. And I know Mom had a rack like that so she could lift them up out of the pot when she was done. And I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but you usually have three settings on your pressure cooker knob for setting pressure levels inside the thing. And I guess depending on what you're doing is how much pressure you want.
Well, and that's all, you got you only put a specific amount of water for everything you do.
Okay.
It's got a fill line on those pressure cookers, and you fill it to that, and then you turn up the temperature till it builds that pressure, and you got to kind of maintain or monitor that. But
I think I put this in here for two reasons. One, I think it's pork. It looks like pork to me.
yeah,
I think it does. And there is one
a
of those
mountain lion.
mountain lion. Okay.
Well, it's the same color as mountain lion or pork. Looks the same.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for coming in. See that thing he's got in his hand? I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's a hand canner. That's a different way to seal a jar. That thing, and it's sort of like putting the lid on a can. It's crimping that metal lid around the jar. It's sort of like the can. You get those with pickles sometimes. I bought, and sometimes you have to use a can opener to pop them off.
Oh yeah.
And that's a hand tool for doing that at home.
So then are they canning? They've got to be canning that meat though. I mean,
they've got to be canning it. I didn't get everything.
He's sealing that, and that's sealing the jar, and then they've got to be
can it. Yeah, they need can it or
cook it. Look at that.
Whatever. That strawberry's being dried on a dehydrator. And there's something being smoked. It looks really good.
Fish.
And there's
a bunch of that's a whole antelope right there. That's a doe antelope in jars.
Okay, I guess that's enough. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready to shut down. I know Mark's got company coming tomorrow, and I'm sure we got. Well, you need to go to sleep, Ian, if you feel bad. Now you're going to make me feel guilty. But it's time. Whoa.
This is cool when this happens.
I know, but it's like looking into
you can see as far away as you want.
It looks like we're in some kind of infinity mirror.
Yeah.
It just keeps adding all the way back down. Maybe if we could get in there, it'd be like a black hole. So anyhow, Mark, I really appreciate you being here today, buddy.
Anytime, brother. If I'm available.
I was going to ask you something after we left online, but now I don't remember what it was.
I've been MIA for a little while, but it's just been one of those summers.
It's been that kind of summer. Thank you, Shelley. Thanks for coming in. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend as well, and the week to come, for that matter. And everybody else too. And Ian, we've actually kept him awake.
And now they're mowing outside his window.
Oh boy! He said if I'd had a USGS kind of a film presentation, he probably would have made it to sleep a long time ago. He's kind of critical of my videos. Anyway, thanks everybody. I really appreciate it. Had a good time today. I think we've had a good discussion, and you guys have chased more squirrels than hey, Carol.
They chased more.
You have a good weekend too, and I hope everything's okay at home. Boy, Teddy's growling about something in his sleep. He must have got that squirrel. Oh, just my monotone ones. Okay. All right. We're going to go. I'm going to do it. So everybody thanks. Mark, we'll see you later, buddy. I'll talk to you this week sometime. Try to stay out by the fire tomorrow and enjoy your cookout or whatever.
I will.
Go fishing if you need to by yourself. Sneak off. You wearing moccasins, you ought to be able to sneak off.
No, I can.
I tell you what you do, put your bow or something out in the barn so nobody sees you with it.
And just slip away.
Slip away and then grab your bow and go shoot some cactus or go shoot some plants or something. I don't know. Anyway, goodbye, everybody. Again, thank you all for being here, and love y'all for the support, and we'll see y'all again next week. if the good Lord's willing, then the creek don't rise, we'll be here.
Later,
If we still got our
everybody.
hair. If the creek rise, we may not have our hair.
That's right.
And this week, it could be the water creek for that matter. Fortunately, I'm on high ground. All right. See you guys later. This is it. Goodbye.